welcome to Turf Wars Season 4, Episode 7. It's going well. It's exciting that we're on to Episode 7 already. Seems like we had a big break for Turf Wars in between Season 3 and 4, and it seems like there's no time has passed and we're just smashing on. So it's all exciting. This week there's quite a lot of good news, actually. There's lots of good news to do with trans men and trans masculine people. So if you're watching, if you're in the audience, shout out to you. We're going to cover lots of different things, actually, not just one article. There's several different cool things. Also, last week I mentioned in passing Vulva Lady. And I thought she's kind of last week thing, but we're going to cover her this week. So if you were wondering what the hell that was about and you missed it last week, then we'll cover it this time. We've got some good conspiracy stuff. We've got a whole range of things. And at the end, I'm going to do like a story time, which I might have alluded to on other shows before, but I don't think I've told this kind of ridiculous story in full anywhere publicly before. So that should be fun. That's going to be the end. And we're going to be talking about a protest which is coming up, which you should join if you are Scottish. So, or perhaps live in the north of England, or perhaps have your own personal jet. Maybe don't fly for process. Anyway, I'm just kind of rambling. We have some good news, and we've got an exciting guest. So, yeah, it should be a good episode. Welcome if this is your first ever one. We're just going to go through the trans rights news of the week and laugh at all the idiots and celebrate for all the good stuff. So let's get going. Let's just go straight into it. The first piece of news is, I feel like there's just one of these pretty much every month at the moment, but here is yet another new study which shows low regret rates for, in this case, surgery for trans people. I'm not a fan of the term gender affirming, because I feel like the whole point is that you're making changes, like you are who you are without making the changes, and your body doesn't necessarily affirm what your gender is. I don't know. I feel like it's like it. I get that people want to put a nice sounding word on it, but gender dysphoria reducing surgery, I don't know. I'll just call it straight up what it is, like, trans healthcare surgeries. Anyway, another study shows what we all know, and that is that they have incredibly low regret rates. So this one, which was published in Plastic and Reconstructive Surgery, the Journal of the American Society of Plastic Surgeons. So not just some wacky nobody kind of journal, which we might mention later. But it says that 99.7% of trans people who had undergone a gender affirming / trans healthcare surgery experienced a degree of satisfaction with the outcome, an incredible figure in the context of any healthcare outcomes. So 99.7, I think that's a number that should sound high enough to anyone. I mean, when you say, more than 99%, that's usually sells to the average person on the street. But I don't think people really realize how low surgery success rates are. I mean, not low as in, I don't want to, if you've got a surgery coming up that's not this surgery or one of, trans healthcare surgery, I don't want to put you off. Surgeries obviously have been successful for, centuries in making people's lives better. But I think that most people think that the chance of a surgery having a regret rate might be like 1 in a million or something. But it really isn't. It is actually quite high for a lot of surgeries. So a comparison, because sometimes you'll see something like, a certain surgery for trans people might have a higher regret rate, or it might have a high complication rate. And they'll just say something like, 5% or something. And you're like, wow, that's 1 in 20 or whatever. And that sounds quite high. But, well, let's compare it. So this one points out here, the knee replacement surgery, which is actually my go-to when I, highlight these, has a dissatisfactory rate of 6 to 30%. So this does point out that this study validates the result of previous research on regret rates. For example, another one that found that 98% of trans youth went through gender affirming healthcare continue their treatment into adulthood. The 0.3 regret rate of our newest study is much smaller compared to other yet common serious surgeries. So, sorry, I slightly misread this. Basically, I was going to say that this 0.3 rate is actually on the low end. I mean, sometimes you see like 0.5 or even sometimes they say as high as 1%. All of these do range because obviously satisfaction and regret and dissatisfaction and all of these things are kind of hard to define. They're all subjective. And sure, if you're doing a knee replacement surgery and you end up having to amputate someone's leg, that's quite clearly a failure. But if you give someone a knee replacement and it makes their knee better, but it's still painful for them all the time, or it fails after 3 years and they didn't need another one, or someone might say, well, I kind of regret this, or I'm not satisfied with this, or, you know, although it made my life better, it wasn't as good as it could have been. So that's why you get these kind of, I'm going to sneeze. That's why you get these kind of ranges like 6 to 30%, which is quite big. However, 6% is like, you know, hugely higher than 0.3%. And then, like they point out here, in some cases as high as 30% regret rate, which is 100 times, 2 orders of magnitude more than what this study shows. These are trans healthcare, as it stands today, is in a position where most people don't regret it, and it makes most people's lives better by a reasonable amount. Like, there's no evidential argument to put forward to say that these people should be stopped from having these surgeries. I feel like this is a kind of a weak point of the anti-trans. Actually, I'm ranting off on this, and I've got loads more things to cover. This is kind of a weak point of the anti-trans brigade's points, because they always say, oh, experimental, scary, evil surgeries. But then if you just look at the numbers, it just blows it out in the water. What they should really be focusing on is the moral factor, because they can just say, yuck, trans people, and they'll probably get more empathy for that. They don't have an argument here. There'll be more of these studies. We'll cover them when they come up. Anyway, let's move on. So we've started with some good news. Now we're going to start like the theme of the first half of the episode. So this article is about trans boxer Patricio Manuel. Sorry if I got your name wrong, mate. Wins first match in 4 years and improves to 2-0. So he's done 2 professional boxing matches and won 2 of them. It's 100% win rate. Here he is with the judge or the referee or whatever. I know nothing about boxing. I know the only things that I know about sports are statistics on trans people, because it's the only thing I've had to learn. Here he is with some bloke, I don't know, and a lady in the background. But he's just won this boxing match. It says here, heading into his first fight since a historic debut in December 2018, trans boxer Patricio Manuel entered the ring in the Pyramid at Long Beach State University against fellow super featherweight Hien Huan. Gosh, sorry. With a question looming, after 4 years, how much rust would be evident? The answer came 90 seconds of setup, leading to a sweeping right hook to Hyun's jaw that sent him into the canvas. By round 4, Manuel had recorded his second professional win in men's boxing with a technical decision. So, only 4 rounds till he won. I know technical decision is like, it's not a knockout, but whatever. I don't know boxing. But he has done well to win his second fight. He took a big break because of a hip injury, it says here. You can watch the video if you want. I'm not going to play it because I don't like fighting. The link is in the description. But I just thought I'd put this quote from him here where he says, I am not a self-made man. He said to the crowd after his win, I am the sum of everyone, not only my supporters and my friends, but also my family and my team. I am so loved and supported that I feel unbeatable. And I think that maybe that's the kind of a boxer thing to say, but also I feel like it's quite a trans thing to say. And I feel like that's true of me. You know, I am the sum of everyone, my friends and family, and I do feel loved and supported, and together we're unbeatable. And that's like the trans community vibe. And it's also cool just in general, because one of the things that the anti-trans people always say is, why aren't there any trans men playing sport? And well, there are, they just don't care about them, because you can't fearmonger with trans men winning sport in the same way that you can fearmonger with trans women being near sport. So yeah, well done to Patricia. But our next thing, I'm just gonna see, is our guest ready? He is. Okay. So our next thing is the first all trans masc side makes football history. And here we have this absolutely incredible picture of a whole team of like trans guys and trans masc people played a football match all together, and we have someone from that match to bring on now. So hopefully we can get him on and we can talk to him about what that was like, and yeah, the vibes around it and that cool photo there. So hopefully he's joining now. But I think this is a pretty cool picture. Okay. Just fighting Discord here. Come on. Don't stop working. Mods, if you're watching, can you help me out? Anyway, we can scroll down a little bit while we have a technical issue in the background and look at some of these other cool photos. So here is another one of the team all running together, which is pretty cool. Oh, okay, wicked. Right, okay. So we will just bring him on now with this cool button. Yay!
Hello,
So here is our special
eventually.
guest.
Hello.
Yep. I don't know why you're up in the air up there. Ooh. Why is there so many tech problems? Oh, I know why. Right, that's better. It's fixed. Yay! So, how are you doing now your tech issues are solved?
I'm good. I'm still riding on a high since Friday night, to be honest. It's been a bit of a blur since then.
Yeah, this is amazing. This is so cool. So let's just scroll back up to like, we were talking just before the show, you were saying like this is the photo that sort of captured people's hearts and minds. But yeah, this is a cool photo. Do you want to just explain what's going on here?
Yeah, it's a really cool photo. Yeah, it just captured the moment, I think, so well. And so, for context, for people who didn't know, we played our first ever all trans masculine side football team match against Dulwich Hill supporters on Friday. It's the first time it's ever been done in Europe, and all the team comprised of trans men, and it was just really exciting because although none of us had ever met before, we'd sort of played individually or maybe hadn't played for a little while. The one thing that kind of united us all is that we were told that we couldn't play football. Maybe we were in like a girls' team when we were younger, and then we're told that as we transition, we wouldn't be welcome in sport, or that changing rooms were difficult, or that maybe I was told when I was younger that it's a boys' sport, so I couldn't possibly play. So this kind of event that brought us all together, we all had that kind of same thing in common, and to be able to play as ourselves of really different ranges. Like there was someone, Parker, who actually scored a goal for us, is semi-pro, and then we had someone who hadn't played since school like a decade ago. So just all be
Amazing.
on the pitch together, like and it wasn't about winning or losing. The score didn't matter at all. It's just about being there, being on the pitch, being visible, and having a really, really good time. And I think, yeah, that's what that picture captures and what resonated with people, I think.
Yeah, and then you all like, I don't know, is this after the match or before the match?
Yeah,
Like,
this was afterwards, and actually there was a 600 strong audience, or I say audience
really?
crowd. Yeah,
That's
it
pretty
was
good.
really, really well turned out. And afterwards, we lost 8-1, and that was pretty much always going to happen
Yeah.
because the opposing side play, I think, like twice a week and know each other really well. As I say, a lot of us hadn't played in a long time, and the crowd just went absolutely crazy when we scored a goal. So this was
Yeah,
us
that's
all
so
together at the
cool.
end, and everyone was on their feet and cheering. It was just the best moment ever.
Oh, amazing. And then there's also another amazing photo down here of like you all hugging. I mean, presumably after the
Yeah.
game for how muddy this guy is, but
Yeah, so Parker actually scored like I think within the last 10 minutes, and we were just so relieved and happy that we managed to get a goal. And literally, there's I don't know how many people were on the pitch, but literally the whole team, all of the subs, our manager, everyone just like ran onto the pitch all together, and we just had this massive hug. I think the game stopped for about 5 minutes, and we all just kind of cheered each other on, and the crowd just wouldn't stop. So that captured that moment, and we were pretty muddy by that point.
That's so cool though. Did you I don't know if there's any other photos. Oh, here's another one from the changing room and the setup stuff.
Yeah, that changing room like stank so much. It was my experience of like being in a men's changing room, and it was as disgusting as I thought it would be.
Yeah. I've had to do that in my past, and it was pretty bleak.
Yeah, kind of affirming in a way, but.
Well, yeah, I guess if you can remember that smell and treasure it always. Did you feel that, like, because you were saying you hadn't played together, like, as a team before, and obviously that's why you were out gold compared to the other team, but do you feel like you kind of gelled well as a team more than, say, if it was just like 10 other random people, because of your, like, shared experiences, or...
Yeah, I think so. There was kind of that commonality, and we'd met like an hour before to put kit on and get to know each other's names and stuff. And it was kind of unwritten rule that we're all going to be supportive. There was, even someone in goal was struggling to kick the ball that far. It's like we're going to help you out. We're going to take this kick for you, and no one's going to get annoyed at other people. We're just going to enjoy the moment, and that really shone through. I think there was no anger on the pitch at any point. There was no frustrations. We all just kind of really got on well, and we're there for the same reasons, is that we just wanted to be on the pitch. It didn't even matter if you played the whole game, just 10 minutes would have been enough. And yeah, we're all kind of there for that moment, and we all got on really well. In fact, I think we're planning like a couple of different matches now, all
Amazing.
together. And I think we've had so much support from across the UK, but globally as well, that I think our manager Lucy said there's enough to do a UK versus US tournament now. So that's really exciting.
Pretty cool. So yeah, that's one of the like cool things about this is, like, obviously, you were saying that even if it just been 10 minutes, it would have been cool. And obviously it's amazing for you all as players and for people watching and stuff. But, the first is not going to be the last, is it? And it kind of sets the scene, and it's going to inspire some people. And, it's like when you get the first ever, trans man who's a footballer, and then he'll inspire some people, and then maybe you can get enough for a team, and now you've got enough for a team, you'll inspire some more people, and then you can have an all like trans man game, and then eventually the trans agenda will be realized, and all football will only be trans men, which is obviously what
yeah, I think there's been a couple of like parents of trans kids that have got in touch saying that their son has seen this on Facebook or whatever, or they've shown that their kids, and they've just been so energized by it, and has really like helped them realize that there's a place for them in sports. So I think that's kind of the best thing that's come out of it, really, is that trans kids are going, yeah, I can play, and have asked to join the league as well. So maybe there'll be a junior league, fingers crossed.
That would be so cool. Oh yeah, so if anyone in the audience is a young trans person and you want to join in, then I guess maybe you can contact this team if they're gonna try and do a youth league or something, I don't know. But, or parents, let your kids know. Can you watch this game? Is it online anywhere?
It's not, but I think there's quite a lot of like clips going around of different elements. So like, people scoring or saving goals and stuff. So you can definitely watch little bits back. But I would say as well, that actually started out as a trans women's team. So they played last year as like trans women versus cis women, and then we have a mixed team as well, and then a trans men's team. So we're just kind of growing and growing as we can put teams together, essentially. So yeah, if it's something for you, please get in touch. And even if you haven't played before, but you'd think, maybe you want to, then we'd absolutely welcome you with open arms. So
that would be cool. Yeah, definitely. I'd like to see this like America versus Europe one or whatever. I think that'd be quite fun.
Yeah, it'd be great. Really good.
Yeah, so have you had many like journalists contact you about this? Like, what's the press been like? Because I know Pink News is obviously going to cover it. But...
Yeah, so I was actually speaking to Arthur Webber, who's the captain of the team, and kind of expressed my frustration actually at the amount of press coverage that we didn't get, because it went super viral on Twitter. Like, I don't know, 105,000 likes, a ridiculous number of retweets or whatever. And the coverage that we got was stuff that I'd reached out for or that Arthur had reached out for. There was no journalist really, apart from you and maybe one other, that got in touch off the back of it and said, let's have a conversation about this. And I do think if it was the other way around, if it was a trans women's team who got the same coverage, that would not be it wouldn't have been lost, or it wouldn't have been completely ignored. And I think it just goes to show like the misogyny and the trans misogyny within football um, as well, and the debates around trans women in sport at the moment are just fueled by hate, because it's when it's trans men, it's just kind of like, oh well, yeah, you're at a natural disadvantage anyway, so you don't really care. So
Yeah,
it's not about
yeah.
equality, it's about transphobia. So I think that's been kind of enlightening for me, is that yeah, the number of people who haven't got in touch despite seeing it. I didn't think it was a news story, which is bizarre because trans people are in the news all the time now. So this positive news story, the one that says so much joy, wasn't something that we were willing to cover, which says a lot about the state of transphobia in the UK, especially at the moment.
Absolutely. I was thinking like one of the factors is absolutely that the news only ever really wants to platform trans women doing stuff because then people can get angry at it or people can wank off over it. But like, and when I say people, I mean dickhead cis men. But I think another factor is that you're in the UK. Like if you had done, I mean, totally guessing just based on my feelings here, but if this had been like an Australian or New Zealand or Canadian, like all men, trans men's football team, I feel like there would have been more coverage. And the UK press is so transphobic that they, even acknowledging the fact that like a picture of a trans man smiling cannot have that. Like that's already against the narrative enough, let alone a whole flipping team of them all doing a sport. Trans men don't play sports, that's not allowed because they're inferior and feeble.
Yeah, exactly that. And it's just, yeah, I found it quite bizarre. I thought there would be more people wanting to cover it, but yeah, it's proved a bit of a battle, to be honest.
Well, hopefully when you do the first international side and you absolutely smash the Americans, then there might be some more like patriotic vibes to it, or the Americans might want to cover it and talk about how transphobia is so bad in Britain and put us down in return, or something like that. So it might get more coverage.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, it was the coverage was a kind of nice side point to it. I think actually being there in the moment, I've never felt community like it. When Parker scored the goal and we all just ran at each other, it was kind of like I've never felt that kind of team spirit before. I've played lots of different sports and matches, but never before have I felt that kind of jubilation, I guess, at someone scoring. And I think because it meant so much to all of us to be able to be on that pitch and play and then score, it just, yeah, it was incredible. So I'm really looking forward to replicating that again, hopefully.
It's like the end of the film moment. Like this is a film, you can make a film out of this. You could cover all the different trans men's complicated backstories and have, not just make it some kind of sadness porn that they often make LGBT stories, but like get the full range of colors and then finish it with the moment where everyone's running towards each other, and then have this like scene replicated for the final moment with the like epic swell music.
We could have a trans Bend It Like Beckham.
Yeah.
Which I think would be great. Which is actually like the film as well that I like when I was growing up. I was like, oh my god, like I want that to be me, I want that to be me, and then turns out that wasn't that trans man full time. I just wanted to play football, so I'd love to see that.
Yeah, amazing. Well, maybe you could even star in it as yourself. Who knows?
Fingers crossed.
But yeah, so that was really cool, and I hope everyone like feels inspired by this, and obviously by the boxer who we were just looking at. Gonna cover some more positive things, but I just had another kind of funny thing, and we're just talking just before the show, and it turns out it's maybe relevant because you've like written a book about this, so I thought I'd just keep you on to have your thoughts on this next thing if you've still got a minute.
Yeah,
Okay.
of course.
Right, so the next thing we're going to talk about is completely unrelated really, but so I was just scrolling through Twitter, as I do literally 24 hours a day, and I discovered this person who is, I don't know, B-tier gender critical. Despite being a first name bunch of numbers, she seems vaguely relevant. I think followed by J.K. Rowling. Don't quote me on that. But anyway, she came up with this line. The easiest shag a straight man can find today is from a trans man who thinks they are gay. And then this person said, that's pretty weird thing to choose to say. And she says, I've seen the straight blokes talk about it online. They just sign up to a gay dating app, find the women on there and pretend to be gay until they get what they want. And I said, this just doesn't happen. The way she's presented it, like, of, you know, some, oh, it's just straight geezer. Oh, I know, we'll get easy way of getting sex. I'll just download Grindr, as if that kind of man has the like ability to do that without having some kind of panic about his sexuality.
Yeah, I mean, that was my kind of first approach to it. It was like, you know, oh yeah, if I was a straight man, the first place I'd go to pick up women is Grindr. Of course it is. There's definitely no ulterior motive there.
Yeah, exactly. and few people pointed out that sometimes, you know, chasers might be there and they might be in denial and all these kind of things, but I don't think that's really what she's communicating here. I mean, absolutely there are chasers who exploit trans people on dating apps. I mean, that's kind of what a chaser is. But you like wrote a book kind of about this. What's your book?
Oh yeah, I've got it here actually. It's just been printed. Hang on.
Amazing.
Yeah, so it's called A Trans Man Walks into a Gay Bar. So very, very suitable for this topic. And as a self-proclaimed gay trans man and shagger, I feel like I can speak for a lot of this. And of course there are chasers on those apps. I've had a few people message me on Grindr before being like, oh, you know, just confused about my sexuality or whatever, and I'm just kind of like, I'm not here for that, whatever. But also there are people who want really hot gay sex, and gay trans men are really, really hot. So I feel like, you know, I would love to see, I wouldn't love, but I'd kind of love to see a straight man being like, oh yeah, I want to have sex with a girl, and then it's not my hairy ass that he wants. Do you know what I mean? It's just not the reality of the situation. So I kind of found it quite a bizarre take, to be honest.
I mean, the reason, to be honest, I think that whatever, even if we could extract some grain of truth about chasers and men who are confused about sexuality and all this kind of thing, I don't think, regardless of what any grain of truth there might be to this, even though it's majority bullshit, that isn't where this has come from. The thing is, this has to be true for like gender critical ideology to be true, because they believe sexuality is solely defined by your birth genitals. And it doesn't matter how well anyone passes or what surgery they have or anything. It doesn't affect sexuality in the slightest. Therefore, out of the two of us, gay men are attracted to me and not you. And obviously that's not the reality of it. And if you just went outside ever, then you would see that. But they need to come up with this bullshit to just like revalidate their ideology.
Yeah, and it's really odd. I think with transmasculine people in particular, like they get really annoyed when you transition because it's not someone that they find hot anymore. It's like, oh, you're not fuckable to me, so therefore I'm going to hate on you or whatever. And I think there's a bit of that going on as well, where it's like, oh yeah, you're a man and I don't want to shag you now, so I'm going to be angry about it. And then be really hypersexual towards you anyway, and just kind of be like, oh yeah, like the reality is that you've got a vagina and a pussy, like, oh lol, and it's kind of like, it doesn't matter, you're being very strange.
Yeah, exactly. They always just get super creepy super fast and start talking about your body parts as if they own them and they deserve them. And
exactly, yeah, there's that ownership over trans bodies, I think, and like this idea of a reveal or what you really are, which is always just nonsense, isn't it?
Yeah, it's grim. We do, I'm going to come on to something vaguely related to this later in the show, so just remember this thought about how some of the transphobia comes just from their kind of desire to have sex with you or not, and how they're confused about it. But Harry, thanks for coming on. It's been really great to talk to you. I'm glad that I was 50% of all the journalists who reached out.
Yes, thank you very much.
No, that's
right,
okay.
Have a good rest of the show.
Thank you very much. Yeah, see you later. Bye. So that's pretty cool, quite uplifting, and I hope that everyone feels that the transphobe there is an idiot and that the football match was really exciting and really fun to see. But yeah, we're keeping on the theme of, so now we're crossing a little bit into transphobe territory, but we're still keeping on the trans man positive like train, because that's what we got going on here. So this is our next thing. So here we have this dude who's some gender critical man, Mr. Menno. who has discovered some random trans guy's transition fund. And he says, this is pretty grim, so I apologize to Leon for reading this out, but this is going to get positive and it's going to be good. But he says, young 21-year-old girl thinks she's a gay man and is looking for £10,000 for synthetic testosterone and a double mastectomy. My initial anger at her co-opting gay manhood fades fast as my heart sinks and I just feel intensely sad. How on earth can we make her see sense? So, first thing I noticed here was this young 21-year-old girl. As if they would ever describe a 21-year-old trans woman as anything other than a man. They describe trans girls as men from the age of 14, and they describe trans men as girls indefinitely. Like, they always just want to portray trans men as, oh, young and confused, innocent girl who's been tricked by the evil trans women. Just completely bullshit. And then, you know, the standard kind of gender critical feeling that they own being a man or own being gay or whatever. You know, whether Leon is a gay man or a straight woman or a gay woman or a straight man or anything, you know, non-binary, anything, literally doesn't affect you, mate. Like, you don't have to find him sexy. You don't have to date him. You don't have to kiss him. You don't have to do anything. You don't even have to acknowledge him if you sat next to each other on the bus. Like, who gives a fucking shit? It literally doesn't matter at all. But, like, to be angry about it, like, what are you on about? And then just this kind of sadness where you feel like, what, you're sad that someone transitions? It's the same feeling that people are sad when their kid comes out as gay and they feel like their child has died or something, and they feel this sadness because someone who they loved is not who they thought, or is not going to have the future they imagined, and that's because they always imagined a cishet future. Anyway, this made me quite annoyed, so I commented about it, and I know a few other people saw it, so I'm not absolutely not going to claim all the credit for this at all. But at the time, Leon's transition fund had $130 out of 10,000, and it'd been up for something like 2 years. Like, this guy really was just like maybe he didn't find it, but some gender critical person was searching through and looking for, like, this is so irrelevant. And I do feel a bit guilty about kind of making Leon into a news item, but unfortunately that's kind of already happened, and it's good. It's a good thing. We're just about to get into a good thing, but, like, what are you doing here? It's just so, like, slimy. Like, even in a world where trans men are all confused girls or whatever, fuck off. Why are you doing this? Like, to what end? It's just, all you're trying to do is trying to rage up all of your creepy cultist followers. Anyway, this I was like, I don't know, can we verify this guy's real? Here's his fund if you like. But then, do we have it here? Yeah. Since then, within like 6 hours of this guy posting about it and a few people quote tweeting it, he hit over 10,000 and he has already hit 12,000. People found out that there's a TikTok of him talking and saying about his crowdfunder, so we think it's legit. The reason I say that is because I get requests to boost crowdfunders, you know, like 6 a day or something, and I know some of them are scams, and if I can personally verify one, if I know someone's a real person, if you're someone watching this and you're like, I wish Katie would boost my crowdfunder, I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to verify someone's real, but if there is a way in which we can, you know, totally, let's hype it, let's go. And yeah, so he's hit his goal thanks to, I mean, obviously support for trans men, but partially spite for the transphobe who was having a go. So I don't know if he's even seen this yet, because, you know, you make a crowdfunder and he gets $130 in 2 years, or whenever it was started. When was it started? I don't know if it says, but you might just forget about it. And so someone who went to his school with him saw it and messaged me, and I said to pass on the message, you know, make sure he's seen this. So hopefully he has. But anyway, congratulations, Leon. Sorry that the circumstance was some transphobic shithead was having a go at you for no reason. But turn that around, that makes this extra good because you get, you know, the money you need for your transition, but also you get to spite some pathetic loser. So, you know, I think that's just as good motivation. So yeah, that's a nice little success story. I just wanted to highlight, I don't know if you know this Mr. Menno guy. There's like this video of him from, so this is a gender critical picnic or whatever, bunch of losers. I think that's Posey Parker in London somewhere. And this is him doing a comedy. This is gender critical comedy we're about to see. Him wearing a black morph suit with a nappy for some reason. He shouts a few things and they all have a little laugh. But I just thought you'd show you that this guy is an entertainer within the gender critical sphere. So there we go. Absolutely phenomenal. Just wanted to show you that because why not? I'm a fucking weirdo. But anyway, talking of weirdos in London, there was another women speak event. Had a pretty big turnout by their standards. I think there was like 300 people or something. Don't feel intimidated by that number. We're going to look at some good photos later. I think I've queued them up anyway. But this was something highlighted. So here's a gender critical loser, Lily Maynard, saying, a woman has come from Dorset to talk about how her daughter's school transitioned her daughter behind her back after she started being bullied by her friends for being a lesbian. Hashtag let women speak. And she's holding this thing, school trans my 12-year-old child without my knowledge or consent. And not really sure why it's in this weird binder thing. What's going on there? I don't know. But like, of quite a few people commented on this and like got quite a lot of attention, because, well, there's a bit more details underneath. The school and the child's father facilitated her transition behind her back. A solicitor told her she should support her son, so solicitors are also involved. The child wants to save up for hormones and surgery. After social transition, her daughter started self-harming because she cannot cope. Her mother feels she has nowhere to turn. The child has been convinced her mother is the enemy and has moved in with her father. So, like, you can see this ridiculous spin on this. So what appears to have happened here is the kid has come out as trans, and not felt safe to tell their mother. And as obviously, this isn't like some kind of secret, sneaky thing where like the teachers pick some random kid and force them to transition against their will. Like, the kid has come out to his father and to the school, and a solicitor is involved and has basically said fuck off. And now the kid's like in the custody of the father, and the kid wants to medically transition. And then we have this comment about self-harm. Do you think the self-harm is because he has support from his father and the school and the people around him at school? Or because the mother is like being a dickhead and is attending protests, campaigning to take away his human rights, and like, you know, splitting up the family over this kind of disgust at trans people? Well, I mean, we don't know. Self-harm is a complicated thing, and there could be loads of factors. She does here saying that she was bullied for being a lesbian, and obviously the reason that gender-critical people highlight this is because they want to sell this idea that particularly lesbians are bullied so much that they then want to become men, which doesn't make any sense at all. And, you know, from the lesbians I've talked to who have been bullied for being lesbians at school, they're often called men as the bullying, and that's the last thing they want to do, which is, you know, makes sense when you're not trying to sell some kind of bullshit narrative. But this kind of ties into this. There's some report that came out this week. I don't have an article on it because I couldn't be bothered to find one. But one of these right-wing think tanks has come up with some rubbish report saying trans kids should always be outed to their parents, whether they're abusive or not. And it's just disgusting. I mean, I'm not saying this lady's abusive or not. I don't know anything about her. But what I can say is, if her kid didn't feel safe to come out to her or didn't feel comfortable coming out to her, then that's her problem. She's failed to be a good parent. I mean, for sure, coming out to your parents is scary. I found it very scary. It's very difficult, and it is easier to come out to friends. And so I came out to my friends first, and that wasn't because my parents are failures. That's because, I talk to my friends every day. So I wouldn't want to say if your kid doesn't come out to you first or whatever, anything like that. But if you get into a situation where one of your parents is told, and then the school's told, and then the solicitors are involved, and then you're still refusing to accept them and insisting on misgendering them and stuff, like, that's why. That's why they didn't come out to you. Because you've gone and attended some fucking anti-trans wacko protest, with people who are calling to ban all trans people from public spaces. Of course they're not going to trust you. Gender critical just encourages people to tear their families apart. Like, it would have been better if people just said to her, "Look, mate, just fucking get over it. Like, some people are LGBT. It's not a problem." Anyway, I just thought also, we had this new study come out, and I thought I'd link these two things together or segue into it. So we've got a new study here from Just Like Us, which is dispelling the trope that lesbians are anti-trans. So we've got some good numbers here. So it says here that, right, new research by Just Like Us has found that lesbians are the most likely of the entire LGBT community to be supportive of trans people. Lesbians are the most likely to say they know a trans person, 92%, and also the most likely to say they're supportive or very supportive of trans people, 96%. That's compared to 89% of LGBTQ plus people overall, and 69% of non-LGBT people or cis straight people. So this is one of those studies like where they come out and say, most people don't regret transition, or did you know some trans people are gay or something? And you're like, it's kind of obvious. In my personal experience, which is not a study, it's just an anecdote or a series of anecdotes, this has been the case. Women are more supportive, gay people are more supportive, and gay women are the most supportive. But it's good to see it in some kind of study. So this study researched 3,600 adults, interestingly between 18 and 25. And so I think if they widened the age range, they would see these numbers drop, because young people are more likely to be supportive of trans people too, for obvious reasons, because it's just the newest conservative bullshit thing that all the people who can't catch up with times changing are angry about. But either way, the real interesting thing here is not so much the numbers, but that lesbians are the most supportive group. And I guess if you don't have your head in the culture war and you don't read the British media, you might be like, Katie, why are you even highlighting this at all? This is fucking obvious. And it's because constantly, particularly gender critical men, just want to talk about lesbians, and they constantly talk about as if lesbians in particular and trans people are in conflict. Earlier in the season, we talked about the L Alliance. LGBT Alliance, for example, are constantly talking about how gay people don't like trans people, and then it turns out that nearly 90% of them support trans people. I mean, obviously. And then they have their kind of lesbian, I can't even remember what it's called now. I've been calling it the L Alliance for so long. Project Lesbian or the Lesbian Project or something. They don't represent the vast, vast majority of lesbians. And like it says in this article, like, as a lesbian, I'm horrified by this kind of idea that lesbians are anti-trans. And I texted my friend, how many anti-trans lesbians do you know? She replied, none. I don't know any either. And I know a lot of lesbians. So, I mean, it must be so infuriating for cis lesbians in particular to open the newspaper every single fucking day and see like, oh, you know, trans women are threatening lesbians that if they don't have sex with them, all this kind of rubbish, and just being like, what? Who exactly? Well, we know who, because it's the same 6 people that the media always platforms, you know. But anyway, I actually think it's kind of worse than that. So this points out harmful stereotypes associated with the word lesbian have directly caused the majority of lesbians to delay coming out. So nearly 70%. Several lesbians I know now say they feel torn about using the word, even though it's exactly who they are and a word that describes them, due to a certain narrative that we are somehow predisposed to be anti-trans. So this fear-mongering about, you know, how trans people existing negatively affects lesbians isn't just affecting trans people. I mean, it obviously affects us. That disgusting BBC article they did about, you know, some trans women are pressuring lesbians into sex thing. Like, that, obviously, the main thing there is it's transphobia, and then the whole fabricated bullshit was just there to try and make trans people look bad so they can justify taking away our rights. But this affects cis lesbians too. Like, it's not just like some comment here, but like an article that the same article links to. The top 2 reasons for lesbians delaying coming out were that they were a lesbian is viewed as cringy or awkward, 30%, or wrong, 25%. So, you know, general pressure against lesbians and homophobia. But then there's some other things here. But the last one, I mean, for sure it's the smallest thing, but 4%, 1 in 20, according to this, lesbians have delayed coming out because the lesbian is seen as anti-trans. And this rises to 7% among lesbians aged 25 to 34. This is horrific. Like, the fact that, you know, 20 lesbians watching, I mean, if there are 20 of you watching, one of you has felt some kind of pressure to not describe yourself, to not be open about yourself because you're worried about this absolutely bullshit, factually incorrect narrative in the British media specifically that lesbians don't like trans people. So to all the cis lesbians and all the trans lesbians and all just lesbians in general, it's good to see that you're the best LGBT group. No, well, you know, don't feel like, here's a study. When you see this narrative, don't feel bad about it. When you see, you know, young women questioning their sexuality, you can just let them know this whole thing is invented by the right-wing British press to try and tear the LGBT community apart. That's the whole purpose of this. Like, it's fabricated on purpose. Anyway, right. So we are... I hope we've got a little rage out there. We've had a lot of positive stuff. We're going to get into the weird stuff now. We're going to have... I don't know if I've pressed this button yet on this show, though I had a dream that I pressed it last week, and maybe I did. But we're going to do a what the fuck of the week. What the fuck? This is the mentioned last episode. I've called her Vulva Lady, but she's also been called Pussy Phrenologist. Her own name is Mediclit, so she's got a lot of vagina themed nicknames. But she became the main character of the week last week at some point because she did some weird thread about vulvas that was a bit transphobic. But this gets weirder and weirder, and there's a reason why we did What the Fuck and not Clown of the Week. We've got a Clown of the Week coming up, don't worry. Hang in there for that. But this is fucking weird. This lady is a weird person. Almost so weird that I feel guilty kind of dunking on her. But she said some pretty grim stuff, so... we're fucking covering it. I made the call. We're covering it. So, there was an art exhibition, and the idea is combating stigma about women's genitals because they're all different, and there's a lot of pressure on women, especially because so so many men watch porn, and there's a lot of kind of like perfect bodies in that, or you know, what porn considers perfect bodies, and it can make people insecure about their genitals. So someone made like a load of casts of vulvas to say, look, oh, they're all different. Isn't this cool? And that's a good like artistic statement. It's a good project to make people feel better about their bodies. Anyway, this lady saw the art exhibition and wasn't happy. She says, I contacted the artist to ask if all of these vulvas were intact because I noticed some look mutilated. This might seem kind of, I mean, it's grim language, but it is, I mean, and it's kind of a weird thing to ask about, but I guess it might be, you know, FGM is a thing that exists and it's horrific. And if the artist wanted to include, you know, something like that to show that there are people living with this and wanted to make a statement about it, and people who are survivors of that wanted to be involved, then, you know, that could be part of the project, and it could be done it could be done in a bad way, but it could be done in a good way. And maybe potentially it could be about that. But obviously, gender critical people use the language of FGM to talk about trans people because they have absolutely no shame and they don't give a fuck about anyone and they just don't like trans people. But she says, she told me some are trans post-op surgery. She then goes on, I have a big problem with trans post-ops being included in a vulva diversity video. Here's why. She does some ridiculous thread about bullshit. So her argument is that people shouldn't be different. I don't know. It's just rubbish. Like, unfortunately, I don't have the full thread screenshotted, and it's because she deleted it all and she locked her account and she's blocked me and like all the things. It's very inaccessible at the moment. I did see all of this at the time. I can verify this is real. This isn't me just getting some fabricated screenshot off the internet. But like, if you have 100 vulvas in an art project and like 1 or 2 of them are trans people, great. Just shows the diversity, really, doesn't it? But she's not happy with that because, you know, they don't want trans people being normalized. You know, it's gender critical 101. But obviously she had to take it a little step further. This just keeps getting weirder, this story. This is going to get a lot weirder, by the way. Brace your weirdness. So she's got a picture of it. And she said, the vulvas circled in red are, by contrast, obviously female. People should be able to know what female anatomy looks like. It looks like these. Implying, well, explicitly stating elsewhere in the thread, that the rest of them are probably trans people. Kind of, I mean, the number she circled is like half of them, just more than half. So she thinks like this is like 50% trans women. I mean, obviously it's not. This is like a classic gender critical thing. You say like, oh, there is a trans woman in the film, and then suddenly they think every single actress in the film is a trans woman. And this is just the same. People's bits all look different. And she's just picked up some which look like what she thinks they should look like, and has just declared all the rest trans because trans bad. I mean, that's what's going on here. Loads of people stepped in and said you're a fucking weirdo, including this lady, Electra Rain. So she says, that looks a hell of a lot like mine and I was born with it. Just because it doesn't look like yours doesn't mean it's not natural. So that's a good point. And then she says, the confidence, fucking hell. It doesn't. Look again. Look closer. And then this lady says, this is a pretty good dunk on its own, but it just gets more and more insane. She says, ma'am, I'm a full-time professional porn star. Not only do I know my own body, my C word is also all over the internet. I've spent hours upon hours editing video footage of my own hole. I'm absolutely confident this is what it looks like, minus my 2 vulvular piercings. And then she says, perfect. Can you link the photos, please? What are you doing? That's so weird. this is not an XXX thread, I'm not going to drop nudes and have them make their way onto who knows whose timeline, including potentially minors. You're welcome to Google me. I'll scroll through my media tab and see it for yourself. Also, I don't mind showing you because it's public anyway, but it's fucking creepy that you need to see photos of a stranger's genitals to believe them about their own body. Absolutely. This is, like, I don't think that there's some level of gender critical makes people like this. But I think there's some level of people like this become gender critical because it's just not normal. Like, no, who would do this? Who would do this? It's just so fucking weird. Then she says, I googled, anyone who does can see you would not be capable of picking your own pussy out of a lineup. What does that even mean? What are you talking about? And then she DM'd this lady, like, asking for pictures of her in a certain pose. Like, just DMing a porn star, can I see your vagina for free, please? Like, ugh, it's just all so cringe. Like, what are you doing? Why are you like this? And this is all, like, off the back of making some weird point about why trans women's genitals shouldn't be included in a art piece about body diversity. Ugh. Anyway, people obviously did some backstory searching, because when you become the main character of Twitter, becoming the main character of Twitter means you say something so fucking weird that everyone on the whole website talks about you for a whole day. Which happens almost every day to someone, and it's a bad experience, and I don't think anyone should really face it, and I am kind of adding to it now, so kind of being a dickhead, but like, that's just so weird, and I feel like we need to push back against this. People did a load of searching, and it turns out she's even weirder than this. So here's another tweet by her from 2021, which obviously flew under the radar at the time. So she says, G-spot is not a medical or anatomical term. It's just a name for a perceived sensation. So no one can decide what it is. I know that is a thing that some people say. I don't know. We're not going to get into that argument now. Brace yourselves. I tried to finger one of our cadavers when no one was looking to figure out if it could be the clitoral body. Shh. You should not be sticking your fingers into the genitals of dead bodies. That is, like, not ethical. That is not a thing you should do. That is not something I consent to. I don't really care what happens to me when I'm dead. You know, throw me in the bin like Frank Reynolds. But it's just kind of fucking weird, you know. Doesn't stop there. So then, you know, this isn't just like strange person who just said one-off thing about trans people. Like, she is a gender critical person. She'd already blocked me because I argued with her about something else to do with gender critical stuff years ago. I don't remember. There was a mass shooting this week, and the shooter was trans, which has of course caused the entire right-wing media sphere to say we should ban trans people specifically, and only trans people, from having guns and using it to do all the same normal bullshit that you know they always are obviously going to do. The whole thing's fucking tedious as hell. It's not even really worth covering, other than to obviously say mass shootings are grim and they happen because America has so many guns and anyone can buy them, and it's all fucking stupid and we don't have mass shootings here. But the fact that the shooter is trans, I don't think is relevant. And that's not me trying to, like, protect trans ideology or anything. It's just, like, one trans person did the mass shooting and 5,000 cis people did. Like, that's lower than the odds we'd expect if it was random. So, when there's a pattern, when it's like 10% of all mass shooters are trans, then we can have a discussion. Anyway, this person has watched the video of the police dealing with the situation and I think killing the shooter. I don't really know. Didn't watch it. Don't want to watch it. This person says, it's incredibly hard to watch. Our mate here says, really? My first response was, damn, those guys were brave. So now people can hate on me for violating heroes with my thoughts. You watched a fucking copicide or whatever it's called, and getting horny over the policeman. And then here we have, like, the guys who were part of the team. And she's like, what are you doing? Why are you like this? It's just... Ugh. man, gender critical people are next level sometimes. Oh, hello. We have a visitor. Poppy has come to be horrified at the what the fuck. Hello, Pop. We have a few more things to cover. This show won't go on super long, but we have a couple more. And talking of fucking weird gender critical people, we have our dickhead of the week coming right up. So this is just kind of some random dude who has a YouTube channel called The Court of the EDI Jester. He is in the gender critical man sphere. Like, he's been on Graham Linehan's YouTube channel. He's been on Graham Linehan's blog. He's a gender critical YouTube channel. He's followed by J.K. Rowling. So, you know, probably just like a C or D tier gender critical. But I thought it was just important to watch this thing that he says and why it's so weird. And it's kind of scary. But anyway, let's listen to what he says and then talk about it. Just realised you probably can't hear it. Let me just fiddle. What do I want to do here? So I think if I do this, it's 18.
Order.
Yes, okay.
Now I believe that the answer to violent men who assault, men who attack, men who are misogynistic, men who are wicked.
Sorry, that's super chat. Whoever sent that in. Absolute mood killer for this guy. Finger blasting a dead person. What a fucking sentence. Anyway, people stop sending in funny things while we're trying to watch a man do a threat. Starting this weird guy again. Different kind of weird, okay?
I believe that the answer to violent men who assault, men who attack, men who are misogynistic, men who are wicked, is more men, not less men. And I had a really interesting conversation with a friend of mine who is a fighter in this gender critical fight and a feminist, very intelligent woman, who, and the conversation ended with me saying, I think the fact that you don't want dangerous men who can kill is foolish. We do want dangerous men who can kill. Right? I'm a dangerous man who can kill. I'll say it quite openly. If the needs be, I'd kill. I know I can do it. Because I know that I'm capable of the most extraordinary evil. And at the heart of understanding what it means to be a man is understanding that you as an individual are capable of great wickedness.
What? I mean, this could have been our what the fuck. I think we can get another what the fuck out, to be honest, as well. What the fuck are you talking about, mate? Like, I think there's a lot of a general gender critical, particularly gender critical man vibe. Is there like, I'm a terrible person, and I think it's because I'm a man. I think trans women are men, therefore they must be terrible people. It's like, mate, no, most people aren't like you. Well, I mean, I don't know, maybe most men do think that they are capable of terrible wickedness and that they could kill someone if they had to. I couldn't. And I think a lot of people couldn't. Maybe even, hopefully, most people. I do think that's a certain type of person who's just casually, like deadpan, looking at the camera and being like, I could kill people. Like, it's fucking scary. Especially when you're talking about, you know, the gender critical fight or whatever. And when, you know, when they're talking about violent misogynistic men, they're talking about things like what we covered in the last episode. That is literally exactly how they've described the lady who poured tomato juice on Posey Parker's hair. Like that, they've blown that up to like, they're now calling, you know, I mean, they've been calling us this for ages, but they were calling that a terrorist act this week. the gender criticals and saying violent misogynistic males, you know, like attacking women and silencing them. That is how they describe something like that. Or sometimes like, you know, holding signs and shouting at them, saying fuck off and stuff. That's how they describe cis women, trans men, intersex people, everyone. And then to then be like, oh, well, what we need is more violent men. Like, as if the gender critical like movement doesn't have too many of them already. I mean, it's good to hear that there was a gender critical woman pushing back against that, but obviously it didn't faze this dude. Fucking hell, I don't know, just what a state. Let's just hope that he's one of these people who's kind of all talk and no action, because I mean, eventually one of these guys is going to do an action. I think that's just inevitable. I mean, some of them already have, obviously. There was that guy who tried to burn down a trans woman's house a couple of years ago who was gender critical. Anyway, we're moving on to more fucking gender critical weirdos. This is another gender critical man, and this is our clown of the week. Our clown of the week. And this dude, so linking back to what we were talking about with our guest, here is End Wokeness, which is one of these accounts that just posts black and white photos of people wearing old fashioned and being like, weren't things better in the good old days? And then posting pictures of LGBT people and like being like, this is disgusting. You know, it's just a generic homophobic bullshit account. They obviously hate trans people. Wokeness destroys the mind, body, and soul. Obviously, here we have Elliot Page. They've done a before and after. And I've said a lot of transphobia is just cis people being angry that you are or aren't someone they want to fuck. And that is true. That is what is going on here. This guy is angry because he used to fancy Elliot Page and he no longer does. And if this was a trans woman's before and after, he would be angry that he now fancies a trans woman. And it's just so it's transparent as fuck, and it's very common. And obviously Harry mentioned it earlier. That is a very common thing. A lot of cis people get distress about trans people moving from the category of attractive, you know, to or from that category. Anyway, our fucking clown of the week, this dude, Stephen Lyons, I don't know, Stephen Chippers, I don't know what he's called, who cares, says, male pattern thinking, very telling. So what he's doing here, if you're just passing by, you might be like, yeah, this End Wokeness dude is, I mean, he's obviously the male pattern thinking. He's thought, I'm angry because I used to want to wank to this person and now I don't. But he's not accusing that dude. He's accusing me of it. Which is, yeah, it doesn't really make any sense at all, does it? He's an idiot. So I've been like, what do you even think you're saying here? And then he says, enjoy this ratio. Women don't look at someone and think, I'd like to fuck that person. Men do. So, women who might be watching this, if you've ever thought, I want to fuck that person, there you go. You are abnormal. No, you're not actually really, because obviously this guy got ratio to shit. 2,100 comments, 1,800 quote tweets, and 142 likes. I wonder who's actually like this. Oh, I don't want to accidentally click like. 50. Oh, the likes went up there. I bet it's all just gender critical weirdos. Oh, I don't know. It's not that many of them. There's some. Oh gosh, it's pretty sad that cis women, allegedly, cis women are liking this. But that means this is absolutely classic incel nonsense. But like, he also claims to have been married for 43 years. I just feel sorry for his wife. This is such a classic like gender critical man thing where they do this kind of extreme projection of what's stereotypically masculine and stereotypically feminine, and then assign that as if it's like a biological trait of people. Like, women simply are not attracted to people and they don't want to have sex and they're just poor, innocent, little pretty flowers, and only men are violent, angry, disgusting pigs who want to fuck everything that moves. And like, welcome to real life, mate. But he was like replying to like all of them. I think he had quite a good day actually. I don't think, you know, gender critical men are just immune to shame. They think they know everything about the world and they're not going to change their minds because of like evidence or what women say, are they? So anyway, that was pretty ridiculous. We're going to move on to now our conspiracy theory of the week. Slamming for all the different exciting parts of the week. So Gremlin had said something. Gremlin Hands, as sometimes people think I say his name on here. This person, who is not a clown of the week or anything, despite getting a bit of a clown vibe from their profile picture, said, anyone know this bloke? His wife left him. Anyway, here's a picture of Graham and his ex-wife. And this person says, the humorous lengths alone in this pic tell a story you're not ready to hear. So you know this is going to be good. This is it's just the way that transvestigators write things. I just love it. As soon as I saw this, I was like, this is going to be absolute fucking zinger. So they elaborated. So this person says, what about the humorous lengths? We aren't talking about skeletons, too scary. They say, haha, as I said, you wouldn't take it seriously coming from me, just an observation, followed by a couple of others in the pic which appeared to confirm my initial thought, unless you're already familiar with the skeletal differences. And it, like, this screams transvestigator to me, or EGI, whatever they call themselves. But if you don't know, you might be like, what the fuck are you talking about? This person seems to have clocked on, and they're like, so you're asserting that Graham was having sex with and married to a man with whom he had children for many years because of the length of her humerus. And then they said, no. Oh, thank God. That would have been crazy. I'm saying the humerus lengths of two people suggest they are both trans. Also, other features suggest this. You can check for yourself with research on the male and female skeleton. Not sure why my sexuality is relevant. Oh, they made some kind of comment. To be honest, not a very good comment. So, we have now learnt that Graham Linehan gave birth. Oh, it's so good. And that this is from another part of their discussion. He says, I said he is actually a she and the wife is a male-born person that seem to have not been noticed. I notice a lot of replies to you are being arsey. I'm not trying to be. I've seen Linehan on TV, only briefly. I switched channels due to the lack of comedy in his comedy. So this isn't like transvestigators and gender criticals, despite being part of the trans panic. They are kind of separate. Like, I don't think there's as much of a merge as people seem to make out. Doesn't really seem to know anything about Graham Linehan. Doesn't like him. And thinks he's a trans man. Oh, I love it. I love transvestigators. It's so funny. But that would be the last thing in the show. But we're just going to briefly do story time, which is probably going to take like 5 minutes. So again, we've run over because we always run over because I talk too much. But we're going to talk about this. So here we have Edinburgh Academics Freedom. Edinburgh Academics for Academic Freedom. So we covered a while ago on this channel before Turf War Season 4 started. In Edinburgh, they were trying to screen this film called Adult Human Female. It's just a gender-critical propaganda film. And there was a protest at the uni, and they stopped the film being shown. And we talked with one of the protesters on this channel, so you should go and watch that video, Dylan and Hamilton. And they've rescheduled to Wednesday the 26th of April 2023. So if you're in Scotland and you want to protest, that's the time. And they're also having the filmmakers will be joining them. So that's what I wanted to cover. They say here it's going to have someone from one of the gender critical law groups, someone from For Women Scott, and Shireen Benjamin, who's the person running this, every gender critical organization is just one random person with a Twitter account. And this is no different. As far as I understand, this is Shireen Benjamin. Maybe not. That's my understanding. Happy to be proven wrong. But so story time. I did a talk at Edinburgh University. It was about combating hatred and the gender critical movement. You can actually watch it on YouTube. But what you can't see, because they cut it out, not by my request, they just cut it out anyway, is in the middle of the talk, a bunch of gender criticals who had got tickets to the event and come in and sat through half the talk, got up and started shouting stuff and interrupting the talk, kind of proving my point of the whole talk. In hindsight, it's kind of funny. I was kind of prepared for interruption. People had said they thought gender critical people were in the audience. I think I handled it reasonably well. There was a neutral moderator who got them to sit down and shut up, and if they agreed to have the first question at the end, they just a little monologue at the end. But the person who stood up and shouted was Shireen Benjamin, who runs this account. And she was very angry because I was actually talking about how the protest works. You know, protest against bigotry and stuff, deplatforming hatred does work. Whether you think deplatforming is good or bad, factually, it does work. And she was very angry at that. And afterwards, she got this like first question where she just did a kind of gender critical monologue. You know, it was, I could have written it. Like, it was so predictable. I knew exactly what she was going to say as she was saying it. And I started kind of letting it go off. But she was just, you know, doing the gender critical rant. And one of the things she told me was that I misrepresented gender critical. And I misrepresented the WDI declaration, which I had covered in my talk. So at the time, she was like, you've misrepresented gender critical views. And I thought it was very easy pushback. So I just said to her, like, oh, but do you want to ban me from the toilet at work? And she was like, you're blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, but do you want to ban me from the toilet at work? Is that something you want? She's like, we're mainly concerned about, you know, prisons and shelters. I'm like, yeah, okay, but do you want to ban me from the toilet at work? And I just kept asking that question. And then she said, yeah. Like, that is part of what they want. I was like, so I haven't misrepresented you, have I? I mean, you might want to make it seem like your main focus is on prisons. Maybe your main focus is on prisons. But a key part of gender criticalism is banning me from the toilet at work. Not me personally, but it does include me. And the reason you're trying to hide that is because it's such a stupid, ignorant, and extreme view that when you show people it, they're like, oh, yeah, it's bad. So anyway, but she also accused me of misrepresenting the WDI declaration. And I didn't. You can go and look at the talk. In fact, I'll put the slides of the talk in the description. But basically, I presented what is in my Katie's Shit cartoons of the WDI declaration, just in a slide. I will put the cartoon in the description too, and you can just go and look. And basically, I've summarized a few of the key paragraphs, the worst paragraphs in the WDI declaration, and put the paragraph number so you can go and find. I have not misrepresented it, not even arguably. You can go and look, you can read the WDI. I don't think she had read it at the time. But, you know, there are things where it just very clearly says they want to ban every single trans woman and every single trans girl with no exceptions from all women's spaces, including toilets, no exceptions. Like, that's paragraph 4B, I think. But one of the paragraphs is a call to ban academic... This is important, by the way. Bearing in mind, this is Edinburgh Academics for Academic Freedom. One of the paragraphs of the WDI declaration, which has been signed by loads of major gender criticals, I think even by 4 Women Scott, who are on this panel. Need to verify that, but I'm fairly confident. But certainly by like Dr. Stock and Mayor Forstater and loads of other big names. One of the paragraphs calls to ban research into trans people getting pregnant. Like, straight up, like, even if you say, oh, well, I don't really like that, whatever. This is allegedly the person running the Academics for Academic Freedom group who is accusing me of misrepresenting, at the very least, this declaration which calls to ban some academic freedom. Like, literally, just straight, full stop, no room for confusion or ambiguity here, is just calling for something which is the opposite of academic freedom. So I didn't really get to challenge Shireen on that at the moment, but I guess if she sees this or anyone knows her, I think that she should either condemn the WDI declaration, or at the very least that paragraph, and say, I am explicitly opposed to paragraph, I'll find out which one, of the WDI declaration because it is antithetical to academic freedom, or she should step down from Edinburgh Academics for Academic Freedom if she supports the WDI declaration. And if she does support the WDI declaration, well, yeah, she can't be part of this group. And if she doesn't support it, she should challenge 4 Women Scot on it when they come, because you can't be the Edinburgh Academics for Academic Freedom Society and host people who have signed a declaration calling to reduce academic freedom. Like, it's fucking ridiculous. Anyway, not just a rant. That is a rant, and that is a call out directly to her. And if I've got anything wrong with the description of what I've just said, point in the declaration where I'm wrong and my thing, which no one has managed to do in the 2 years since I made this cartoon, or explain why it's not a contradiction. But there is a funny story here, so which I'm going to tell for the first time now. Exciting. So it wasn't just her who was there. She had a couple of other people with her, some other cis women. I didn't really notice at the time because they weren't shouting abuse or anything. They were just kind of sat there. Fine. Anyway, talk was over. We had that interruption. The crowd got kind of leery and, started shouting. There was some shouting and stuff. Dealt with some other questions. Talk went quite well. I was quite pleased with it. Then we went off to a house party, which was really good. And there was loads of people there and loads of people coming up and being like, oh, Katie, I liked your talk, which was, it's fine. It was a little bit cringe, but it's fine. It's kind of nice. And then we went out to a nightclub in Edinburgh, which was cool. And I think it was one of the gay bars. And we were dancing. And someone came up to me and was like, oh, Katie, I saw your talk and I thought it was really good. And I was like, oh, thank you. And she was like, I was one of the gender critical people. And at this point, I was like, it's quite buzzing that the house party had pizza. I drank a lot of drinks. I was feeling, my ego was quite big, as people have been saying my talk was good and stuff. And I was just like, oh, well, I'm not going to have an argument now in the queue for the cloakroom in a gay bar at 3 a.m. or whatever. And also my natural response to conflict, despite how combative I am on YouTube and Twitter, in real life, my natural response is to make peace with everyone and make friends with people. And even if it's someone who hates me or someone who's a horrible person, I find things that we have in common and make friends with. If I was totally sober, I might have been able to put the brakes on that. But when I'm drunk, I just I'd almost seek out the worst people and make friends with them because I want to make sure everyone gets on. I don't know. It's just my natural inclination. And I was just like, oh, mate, that's cool. Come dance with us. And I ended up inviting him back to the house party, which at the time I was just like, yeah, everyone could be just friends. Maybe they'll just get over being gender critical. They'll see that we're humans and they'll just whatever. But then I just kind of realized that probably no one else at this house party, there was, quite a few trans people and a lot of cis people too. They probably didn't want gender criticals coming to this house party. I feel kind of guilty about it. I don't know, kind of weird story to tell, funny story time. I feel like this, the reason I'm telling it is, it's relevant to this, but also I think it just totally sums me up. And I think in a way that maybe lots of gender criticals would probably excuse me of lying to describe myself like that. But that is what I'm like. And I've given up on the idea that making friends with gender critical people will de-radicalize them from 5 years of experience of trying that. And I've talked about that quite a lot online, how, you know, I spent years and years of my life talking to gender criticals every single day in the hope of de-radicalizing them. And I did some, or at least I helped towards some de-radicalizing. But overall, it's not a worthwhile use of your time. And sober me knows that. Calm and collected internet argument me knows that. 3 a.m. drunk dancing me does not know that. And I need to practice not trying to make my cool, lovely hosts and new friends get on with people who don't want all of us to have the same human rights. So there you go. Story time's over. I hope that wasn't too weird. I didn't really plan that out. But yeah, it was a good time. Edinburgh was amazing. The host was amazing. And hope that the next protest against this garbage film is just as amazing as all of that. But yeah, thanks for watching. We will be back next week as normal. Who knows what wacky stuff is going to happen. I just feel like I have to cut loads out every week. I still run over by half an hour. I hope you're all still with me. Please do like the video if you'd like to like the video. Last week got a lot less views than all the others, and I'm not quite sure why. So if you have any feedback, please do let me know. But yeah, we'll see you next week, 9 p.m. UK time, and we'll deal with some transphobia. We'll get some positive stories. We'll have a good time. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you all next week.